Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. Jesse Weber. Now, I said we were going to follow this story, and we certainly are, because what happened? We covered it last time. There's been some updates. For weeks, the discovery of human remains across New England has sparked panic online. At least 8 bodies. That number's interesting. We'll talk about it. But at least 8 bodies, maybe 7, have been found scattered across Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. Some Facebook groups are even speculating about a serial killer on the loose. But in Groton, Connecticut, police were quietly piecing together what they say is a far more personal tragedy: the brutal murder of 58-year-old Suzanne Wormser, allegedly at the hands of a man she once lived with. On April 25th, police announced the arrest of 68-year-old Donald Koffel, charging him with Wormser's murder, tampering with evidence, improper disposal of a body. And those gruesome details that were outlined in an arrest warrant obtained by Law and Crime, they reveal an alleged calculated and horrifying crime. And we're going to get into those details a little bit later. But with one suspect in custody, the bigger question now lingers. Does this officially shut down the rampant speculation about a New England serial killer? Does that put to rest all of these rumors? Maybe, maybe not. Groton police insist their case is closed. Wormser's death was a targeted crime, they say, not the work of a shadowy predator. Yet multiple other bodies have turned up across the region since March, with each discovery fueling social media questions, true crime speculation, panic theories about a killer or killers. And despite the online speculation, law enforcement agencies across New England, they're adamant there is no evidence connecting these cases. And that's according to reporters for Rolling Stone magazine who contacted departments in all affected jurisdictions, receiving consistent denials of any connection between the deaths, except for the Rhode Island State Police, which it appears didn't respond to the request for comment. Norwalk Chief of Police James Walsh told the Rolling Stone there is no evidence to support the fact that any death investigation of Norwalk is related to a serial killer. In New Haven, Connecticut, where 60-year-old Denise Leary's remains were found in some brush behind a home, police emphasized that there were no signs of foul play, saying there's no indication that the woman's remains found in New Haven are the result of a homicide. Denise Leary was suffering from some mental health diagnosis, and her remains were found near where she lived. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner performed an autopsy and was unable to establish an exact cause of death. The town of Groton Police Chief Louis Uzzaro directly addressed the social media frenzy, saying there's multiple agencies investigating different parts of this. What I can tell you is there's been multiple incidents, including some that we've investigated involving missing people, that folks on social media seem to perceive as a serial killer. I can tell you we don't have any evidence of that.
So, I think that one of the things that is to blame for this phenomena, of course, we can point right to Long Island, New York, and the Gilgo Beach serial killer. Because for years, there were all these bodies around Gilgo Beach and in the vicinity, and the police department out in Suffolk County never admitted to the fact that they in fact had a serial killer. So you can't blame people in New England for being suspicious. 7, 8 bodies, body parts, that perhaps the police aren't putting this together, and perhaps the police are not telling the truth. I believe in this instance, now knowing what we know, and that they have just solved one of these. Well, one of them turned out to be a murder. We don't even know if the other body parts that they have and bodies they have found are dead as a result of murder. We don't know that because the autopsies are incomplete. And even on Denise Leary, they performed an autopsy and they couldn't determine the cause of death. So without determining the cause of death, it's very difficult to say, now, did she die of natural causes? Was she just out in that area and she died in that area? These are some of the questions we have, but we don't have answers right now. But the arrest in the Groton case right now opens up a Pandora's box of possibilities of that maybe this Facebook group with the SK serial killer, maybe they're just jumping to conclusions right now, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, it is, as you say, it's the Gilgo effect, because you had that Suffolk County police chief, and I won't mention his name, who was so inept. Several of them were so inept, and the denial of the possibility of a serial killer when you have like 4 young ladies or at least 3 young ladies found in one particular sand dune, off that really desolate parkway. That is scary that people would be that careless in investigating these sort of criminal activities. And we remember that Suffolk County at the time, they had one police officer who wasn't one detective who wasn't even detailed to investigate them. He was catching other cases too. So it got the lowest priority. So that's a real effect that has on people's psyche. Plus, with social media, rumors can go around. Lurid rumors can spread really quickly, and we all know that that bad news travels faster than good news. So the problem for the police, and like the Groton police chief said, there's no objective indications that we have a serial killer on our hands. That's objective indications. The problem is a lot of people think subjectively about rumors and things like that. Makes it more difficult to say, well, he's probably right. But the truth is they don't have anything further to indicate that there's a serial killer. And the idea that a number of law enforcement agencies actually have, without the public knowing about it, really coordinated some of their efforts in looking at all of these cases, gives me pause to say, what? They were taking this seriously. This was not a Suffolk County Gilgo, issue. They did it right. And they're doing all the other cases, they're going to do them right. And so I think people can take comfort in that.
My groups like New England's SK Serial Killers on Facebook, it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
A, it creates panic, but B, it creates notoriety, and it shines a light on something that perhaps would not be connected, or perhaps that someone would have the initiative to maybe try to hide it. But it's so early in these cases, they're about 2 months old. So as you know, the forensic clock takes a while to come up with answers, toxicology, autopsies, all those things we do not get immediate information. And then if we have to go to the DNA route, the investigative genetic genealogy, we know that can take a long time. But I want to just go back to Jesse Weber. He has that Connecticut police sergeant on. We'll hear what he has to say.
The sergeant himself who investigated these claims, Sergeant Brent Husman of the Narragansett Police. Thank you so much for coming on. Really good seeing you. Appreciate you taking the time, and also the great work that you and your team do.